This presentation will demonstrate the advantages of a new solution for cities. It's a combination of new technologies and training for the City Council, Planning Commission, and staff, which represents a new era of communication that will help all stakeholders involved in the submittal and approval process. This example, we use an actual presentation that was made to the City of Brentwood, California back in 2016. There are a few assumptions that can be made in the process from initial concept submittal to approval. The people who are approving the development, which is the city planning commissioners as well as the city council, are only educated on the meaning of the regulations as directed by the city planner. Most cities in this country use regulations that have their basis from the early 1930s. The city staff could possibly have their own agenda, for example, be members of the Congress of New Urbanism, of which planning is a social engineering exercise. The same city staff could be progressive and forward-thinking, or they may be overly conservative and adverse to change. We are not aware of any city in the nation that makes sure the council and planning commissioners are educated and up to date on the latest technologies and methods available to design and build neighborhoods in their city. Beyond these assumptions are the fact that most ordinances begin with a purpose and intent. Unfortunately, most use the boilerplated regulations that have their basis in almost a century ago. Everything that follows this purpose and intent are supposed to achieve its goals. What follows this purpose and intent? A set of minimum standards which can only guarantee minimal development. The developer is going to hire the local civil engineering consulting firm as the land planner for their site. They will assume that the consultant will give them the best possible plan. They're probably not fully aware that the land plan is the basis of their business plan, and moving forward has the most influence on their success or failure. The consultant, to get the quickest approvals, is more than likely to religiously follow every minimum and try to squeeze in every unit into the site to please their client. The land plan is not where the consultant is making their money. It is in the extremely lucrative engineering and land surveying fees. In our 56 years of serving the land development industry, we have come to realize one truth. Generally, the city council and planning commissioners are not very impressed with most of the developments that they must judge upon. They feel totally powerless in the process to enact change. This new system will provide the power they so desperately want. This is our solution. The first thing that we do is convert the CAD data, which will not be spatial, to the Precision Land Mentor software that we developed to properly analyze any submittal. In this example, you see the street center line length is 3,912 linear feet. This would mean very little to anyone at this point of the presentation. We then run an analysis of the paved surface area of public improvements. Because Land Mentor is an intelligent spatial analytical technology, we're able to develop these charts instantly. Still, few would understand why this is important. This next slide also includes driveways. On this next slide, we show the surface area of the footprint of every home. Then, we compare it to the total paved area per home and show that for every 1 square foot of footprint of the home, there is a total of 1.53 square feet of paved surface area to serve it. And again, at this stage, few would understand the importance of this. This next slide, the chart shows nearly 1/3 of the land area that the developer paid for, which in Brentwood would certainly be a high price per acre, is in the form of street right-of-way dedicated to the city. If the developer paid $1 million per acre, then $4.6 million of their land is gifted to the city. At this stage of feedback, the developer should start realizing there's a problem that will eat into their profit. As part of the feedback, we are showing areas that are color-coded to communicate the inefficiency of the street pattern. You see, in most developments, to get the most minimal lot size, most consultants will develop a plan with excessive street waste. Both developer and consultant are not likely aware of this waste until now. This next slide shows in yellow and in 3D streets that are only fronted on one side and in red streets that have no lots fronting it. One-sided frontage is 50% waste and no frontage is 100% waste. At this stage of feedback, the developer should be shocked at the inefficiency of what they just submitted. Again, using charts, we start communicating the waste of this initial proposal at the concept plan stage. A linear foot of street includes sidewalk and utility mains. Conservatively, in California, streets should be about $1,500 a linear foot. There are 84 lots being proposed, so this waste can be translated into increasing the cost per lot by $18,000. At this point, the submitter, being the developer, should realize that maybe this is not the best proposal to move forward with. This analysis would include many more aspects of the proposal. For example, in this slide we have analyzed the site from a street flow analysis. In other words, how much time and energy would it take simply to get home or leave the development to a destination? Cars do not go around corners at 25 miles an hour. They must slow down and speed up. There are a lot of roadblocks simply to traverse the neighborhood. This is just one example of many to consider on any submittal. On the purpose of the City of Brentwood Ordinance, Item 3 is of importance. It says to encourage the provision of attractive and stimulating surroundings that will make Brentwood's residential areas and enjoyable places to live. It is this condition that gives the Planning Commission and the Council some power to reject a development. Let's take a look at this development, not by a 2D plan, but by a 3D presentation of which we quickly replicated the look of the actual proposed homes. As we enter the development, we look directly into the side of a home. See how each home was squeezed into the smallest possible lot, perfectly aligned parallel to the curb with very short setbacks? If you were on the City Council or Planning Commission, would you find this very attractive or stimulating? Let's take a few minutes to tour of the development before we get on to the next slide. As part of this new system, it's not just about what we've demonstrated here, but taking our 56 years of experience in this business to help cities to go beyond expectations. And in doing so, we would suggest changes in the regulations in such a way that gives the city more control over their growth. For example, we would suggest the following in the purpose: creating more safety and connectivity by separation of pedestrian and vehicular systems. The purpose should also encourage developers and builders to go beyond the minimums. Assure that development does not create energy-inefficient design. Promote development that maintains its value over a long time period. Development that encourages a stroll over a drive. Provide housing that minimizes monotony while also increases the human feel of space. Provide regulations that encourage a higher standard than surrounding communities and attracting the best developers to build in Brentwood. These are just a few of the many suggestions that we would make. It is very important to realize you can't solve a problem unless you are aware that that problem actually exists. This system provides that awareness. To accomplish this, we developed one holistic solution. It is actually very easy to teach Planning Commission, council members, and staff how to recognize waste in any submittal. For example, here is a development in Brentwood. You see the yellow streets fronted only one side and the red streets with no frontage. We also show a cul-de-sac that would not be needed to achieve the same density. We go through a series of exercises to train stakeholders and staff. The major players in the software industry, Autodesk, Bentley, and SRI, who have made multiple billions of dollars annually. None have even come close to providing a solution as we have demonstrated here. And thus, the cycle that repeats itself around the nation every month, city after city, in the estimated 35,000 cities. The developer hires the civil engineer who is likely to have a technician to automate the design of a subdivision for submittal for approval. Without providing constructive feedback that could be translated in the form of financial consequences to the developer, nothing will ever change. In other words, as in this very small example development, we have communicated to the developer they are about to take a $1.5 million loss should they consider to move forward with this plan. We have highlighted where the waste is so that the consultant could go back to the drawing board and eliminate as much as possible. They may not be talented enough to create a better plan, especially if they are totally dependent on an automatic subdividing software package. In this case, the developer is likely to find a more talented land planning company to do the design. Of course, they could move forward with the design as is, and the city would be powerless to reject the plan other than it's not very stimulating. This is a system which is a totally new solution for cities. What we have demonstrated is a very small part of the capability of this solution. It's a holistic technology that merges land surveying, civil engineering, advanced land planning, and architecture related to the site in one quick-to-learn and easy-to-use system. It would only take half-day commitment for the administration, city council, and planning commission to learn how to use this system. For the city staff, if they wanted to learn the entire system, it would take no more than a week. Included in this time would be suggestions of change to the existing regulations to make improvements in the submittal and approval process. We touched on a few of these changes in this presentation. In order to assure smooth operation, we would include some basic hardware along with the software and training, including a VR-capable computer and headset. The projected initial cost to the city would be around $60,000. All the city would have to do is recapture 40 linear feet of street at $1,500 a linear foot to pay for the entire system. We just demonstrated 1/4 mile less public street on one small submittal. On this example, to convert the initial data, replicate the client's proposed homes in 3D, build the presentation, and provide a file that would run like a video game that supports VR headsets, for the 84 lots proposed would be approximately $50 a lot. This fee could easily be built into the submittal cost. Unlike most of the submittal fees that land developers typically complain about, the constructive feedback at initial submittal stage would be invaluable. Even if they didn't want to do any changes, they would end up with an interactive 3D file that they can use on their marketing.